Troubling news today about the health of Americans. The nation's overall death rate is on the rise.
Because of the junk food industry, people aren't working well. That's produced the pharmaceutical industry that comes along trying to fulfill what Louis Pasteur stated, that germs cause disease. But I tell you what, if germs do cause disease, and we've got a multi-million-dollar industry built on drugs to kill germs, why aren't people getting better? In fact, are people getting sicker? They are.
When you start to look at where America ranks when it comes to health care, among the developed nations, we're ranked number 37, okay? Now put that in perspective, because we have, bar none, the most expensive healthcare system in the world. We have the most expensive medications in the world. We have the most expensive technology in the world when it comes to medical care as well too. And we pay the most for health care as well too. Put all those things together, it's a recipe that says that we should be at least in the top 5. But despite that, we're at the bottom of developed nations. Okay, somewhere around 36, 37, okay? Now, with that being said, one of the key factors is what we're eating.
Obviously, when people live on fast food that is totally mineral deficient, they're going to be mineral deficient. But we're finding people today who are even eating a lot of fruits and vegetables and are finding out that they're mineral deficient, and it's because of the way that they're grown.
The truth is that you are not safe. Concerns about the quality and safety of our daily consumption have been escalating, and the situation seems to be deteriorating with each passing day.
So the biggest lie that we've got around big food is that all food is safe. It is not.
The food industry is now all about profit. The goal is to satisfy consumers' tastes, rob them of their health, and earn big. Many of these food and beverage giants are raking in profit margins between 10–20%. In any industry, that's not just good, it's gourmet. We're talking cream of the crop, top shelf, Michelin star levels of profitability. And these companies will go to any length to keep those profits rolling in, even if it involves genetically modifying food. And this has devastating consequences for our health.
Genetically modified foods, how do they cause mutations in the DNA? Basically, that's how it's created. DNA from 2 different species are spliced together. Let's give you an example. The DNA from a tomato and the DNA from an Atlantic salmon, they splice together to create a tomato that will grow in the snow, but it actually doesn't happen. There's this huge grey area of all these other things that happen that they actually don't understand. And when a human being eats genetically modified food, and that food's broken down to these simple structures, especially amino acids, the body says, "Who are you? I don't recognize you." And if there's no other amino acids, they have to use them for the building of the DNA, and that causes flaws. Causes mutations in the DNA. Eating genetically modified foods causes cancer because it actually puts into the body basic ingredients that the body does not know how to use.
What I say? That texture of that watermelon, this is not a freaking watermelon. Look at this.
Why are our strawberries white on the inside? Look at that. You cannot tell me this is normal.
Ideally, those in authority would step in to protect consumers by banning the production of GMO foods. However, this isn't happening because profit always takes precedence. But in Russia, that isn't the case.
Did you know that Vladimir Putin, the Russian's president, he's passed a law that any Russian who grows or sells genetically modified foods is to be considered a terrorist? Whew. He's even giving land away to Russians who will grow food organically, non-GMO. You put his name and GMO in Google that and you'll read the spiel. He says, "We Russians look across at the West, over-vaccinated, over-medicated, overfed, sitting in front of boxes every night in their lounge rooms, eating food that has no nutrients," he said, "and we know it's weakening the West." Is he right? Absolutely right. Yeah.
A huge reason why the food industry is so so toxic and the food is so toxic is because the vast majority of scientists being hired today is from and for the food industry. They're trying to figure out how to make this new potato chip taste like watermelon without putting any watermelon in it. I know that sounds crazy, but it's all science. It's all spectroscopy, gas chromatography. It's literal science. And it's scientists figuring out how to create these inflection points with unnatural things to taste like things that you're familiar with from nature. So they're using these food chemicals not only to tickle your taste buds, but to get your taste buds addicted. And not only for that purpose, but also to make you overconsume the food as well too. So for the purposes of food addiction, for the purposes of making the food last forever, okay? Go from in its most natural form can last maybe 7 days to now in its most highly processed form being able to last for 3 years when you look at the expiration date. To make you addicted to the food as well too. This is what they're doing with the food chemistry, and all this food chemistry is really great for the food company, but it's horrible for your health.
The West, including the United States, is all about the bag.
This machine of companies that are making food are interested in one thing: profit. And many of the ways in which they're making food right now are hijacking your taste buds and are pouring chemicals into your system in a way that is not only causing you to gain weight, but is causing you to build chronic disease.
They cause the problem, then they come along with the solution. But, you know, history quickly shows it's no solution at all, but it was a money spinner.
Hypertension, stroke, type 2 diabetes, and cancers that should be as rare as a well-done steak in a French kitchen are now as common as fast food joints on a city block. So what's a health-conscious consumer to do? For years, the chorus from researchers and doctors was clear: go organic. Organic food was supposed to be our ticket to a healthy paradise, free from the pesticides and genetic modifications plaguing our food supply. But here's where it gets really disturbing. Even the organic aisle isn't the safe haven it once was, and no thanks to the use of pesticides.
They are spraying chemicals on our food that are cancer-causing. Let's just start there. This one actually baffles me because it seems like the powers that be, let's just put it there, should have our health in consideration. But when we are spraying pesticides on our foods, what we're doing is we're making sure the bugs don't eat those pesticides so that we can yield a bigger crop. That's awesome for the farmer. It's not awesome for the human body.
The unfortunate thing again here is that, you know, if you go back 70 years ago, many of the pesticides, herbicides, and insecticides, fungicides, etc., that were being used for farmers were natural, okay? And then you had this boom in creation of all of these agrochemical companies. And they started to make the synthetic versions of these natural products that have been used for hundreds of years with farmers. And the more and more these agrochemical companies got involved, the more and more it got more man-made, the more and more it got more synthetic, and the more and more it got more deadly. And as a result, these pesticides, which are designed to kill pests, these herbicides that are designed to kill weeds, these insecticides that are designed to kill, you know, insects, and these fungicides that are designed to kill certain yeast or candida or funguses, now, unfortunately, they're not only dangerous to the insects, the pests, and the fungus, now they're dangerous to us too. You know, initially the insecticides were designed to increase the estrogen in the body to take out the reproductive process. So now these, you know, insects don't multiply. Well, now they're affecting our hormonal systems, okay? And the unfortunate consequence of that is that, again, agrochemical companies think in a chemical mindset. They don't think in a health and a healing mindset. And so all they're thinking about is get rid of the bugs, get rid of the pests. You're not necessarily thinking at all about what are the consequences of when I put this on the food and it absorbs into the food, what does that do to the customer's health? So Pesticides, herbicides, insecticides, fungicides are really a huge problem.
Dr. Mindy Pelz went into detail about the damaging consequences of these chemicals on our health.
And when we look at the term pesticide that's being sprayed, what at the root of that word, what is the problem with a pesticide? And the biggest problem is it's an endocrine disruptor. So it will block these receptor sites for your hormones to get in. In this concept of an estrogen disruptor also lives something called an estrogen mimicker. So, and they're kind of go hand in hand. We use those terms often together. But an estrogen mimicker actually fits into the receptor site and will go into the cell, but it's not estrogen. It doesn't activate the cell the same way estrogen would. It shuts down your own estrogen production, and the more estrogen mimickers that you're getting in from these pesticides, they become toxic estrogen, which contributes to hormonal cancers like breast cancer.
Another food that has been adulterated is wheat.
You've probably heard of ancient grains. Ancient grains are the wheat and the wheat, they're almost wheat. When I say almost wheat, the original wheat did a wild hybrid, and because it was a wild hybrid with a field grass, it's still okay. But when man comes in and starts adjusting and playing with it, that's what's caused all the problems. It caused the starch structure to change, it caused the protein or the gluten structure to change, and so that's what's caused all the problems. That's all your gluten intolerance, which we never heard of 60 years ago.
Right.
And it all came along about the time it was hybridized. So Dr. Norman Bullag got a Nobel Prize in 1976 for the hybridized wheat. They wanted to create a plant with a high yield of grain to help with the starvation crisis. But they never addressed what the effect of that hybridized wheat was on the human body. They rushed it through with no safety studies, sounding familiar, rushed it through, but only now are they starting only now are they starting to see the problems. And the problems we're seeing is the gluten intolerance, the weight gain, obesity, and the diabetes explosion.
Even the fish we eat today isn't as safe as we all thought.
Fish is good for you. Just one serving a week reduces your risk of sudden death by 50%.
That clip was about a decade ago. But today the reverse is the case, and medical experts like Barbara O'Neill don't even eat fish. And that is for good reasons.
How do you feel about fish?
Well, can you get fish with no mercury? Very difficult.
What's mercury?
Mercury is a heavy metal, and mercury is a waste product from much industry, and that's how come.
Is that true? Or is that a fear mongle?
No, it's not.
No, it's true.
It's not. It's like the Minamata Bay. Minamata Bay in about the 1970s, they noticed that in Japan, the cats were backflipping and then dying. They called it dancing cat disease. So they did post-mortem on the cat and found out that mercury had eaten out their brain cells and their nervous system. And there was an aluminium big factory, and it was pumping out into Minamata Bay mercury waste. And the fish, of course, were taking up. Well, what happens is mercury is a heavy metal. It sinks to the bottom of the sea, the seaweed, the crustaceans, little fish, bigger fish eat the little fish, big fish eat the big fish, etc., etc.
Right.
And one of the problems with mercury, apart from the fact that it's a neurotoxin, is that it's bioaccumulative. And what that means is it accumulates. So the bigger the fish, the higher the accumulation of mercury. And if someone's got silver fillings in their mouth, the mercury is going into their tissues, and the longer it's there, then you get neurological problems like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, Huntington's chorea, dementia. They're all diseases of a deterioration of the nerve cell, and that's what mercury is. It's a neurotoxin, meaning brain cell poison.
So the question now is, what is safe to eat? Here is a video that goes into detail about what breakfast is best for you to fight against disease. Click it now